Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Ali Moreno. Peter Walton will be with us a little later on to discuss some of those controversial calls from the weekend. But there was Monday night action in the Premier League today. Arsenal taking on Newcastle. Arsenal with a chance to move up to third in the table with a win. And in the end, it was a pretty comfortable night's work for Unai Emery's side. Aubameyang starting on the bench 30 minutes into this one. And Ramsey, of course, will be leaving in the summer to Juventus. Makes it 1-0.
Fortunate touch for Arsenal. Unfortunate if you are Yedling and Newcastle, because this ball falls to the path of Aaron Ramsey, who follows up on the play. It's a good finish to the far post.
On the stroke of half-time, Lacazette looking to make it 2-0, but for the goal line clearance from Matt Ritchie.
Lacazette, who I thought was lively all night, obviously in the team ahead of Aubameyang, and I think deservedly so. Great little spin here, and great strike, bearing in mind he's completely facing away from goal. And decent clearance as well.
The win will be guaranteed with 7 minutes to go. Lacazette deservedly getting his goal.
It's a good touch and a good combination with Aubameyang, who had just come into the game. Like I said, runs in behind the centre back. Centre back doesn't react on time. Nice little clean finish.
So very comfortable night's work for Arsenal. A 2-0 win over Newcastle. Moving them up to third in the table. Newcastle offered very little indeed going forward. Easy peasy, really? One in the end?
Expected goals.
I know. On this occasion, it sums it up pretty well.
I'm not attracted to expected goals, but 0.08?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not good.
And that's generous.
It tells you, Newcastle were always going to come and try and set up to scrap some points, and their battle to avoid relegation, which I think they will. I mean, they've got a gap now. However, Arsenal were, in fairness, they played a back three. That allowed some more attacking players in the team, particularly Ramsey and Ozil and Lacazette. And I thought some of the link-up play, although it was only 2-0, I thought some of the link-up play in the final third was excellent. And some of the little dummies from Ozil and the 1-2s with Lacazette, we saw him do it with Aubameyang in the end, but there was several in the first half. And they just, they should have won the game by a lot more. It was night and day between the teams.
Arsenal look good, look comfortable, look confident, almost as if a team that everybody else is talking about, Manchester United and Chelsea and Spurs and whatever struggles they've had or haven't had, and Arsenal just kind of keeps winning games, and now they find themselves in a position where, wait a minute, we are very much in the top four. Not just in the discussion, but now we've jumped ahead of Spurs, and we find ourselves in a situation that if you were an Arsenal fan and they had given you the option of, look, you're going to finish top four under Unai Emery's first season, you would have taken that, without any sort of question at the beginning of the year, and now it's a real possibility.
And in fairness and credit to Aaron Ramsey, here's a guy who is on his way. He's got a big money move to Juventus in the summer, and deservedly so. He's going to be financially well rewarded for that, going to a great club. But he looks as if he's the most determined man in the pitch to get them into that top four.
Yeah.
That's excellent professionalism. I'm not saying most players wouldn't be bothered once they made that move, but it would be easy to kind of switch off a little bit. And he's not. He's been the driving force in there.
So let's just confirm what that victory means for Arsenal and their top four credentials. They are third now. All the teams have played the same amount of matches. They are 2 clear of Spurs, 3 of Chelsea, 9-4 on the Gunners to make it into the top 4. You take a look at their remaining matches, and it's not bad. If you're Arsenal, you don't mind really this at all. You're not playing anyone from the top 6. Obviously, you've got teams who are scrapping for their lives a bit, but overall, you take that, surely.
Yeah, I'd like a couple of more games at home, but it is where it is, and they're going to be on the travels for some of them. It won't be easy to go to Everton or Watford, because they're two, particularly Watford, are a big, strong, physical team. But what I would say, and look, they've given themselves a great opportunity. What I would say about all 4 teams below Liverpool and Man City that are battling for those spots is that every one of those teams looks as if at some point they could drop points.
There's vulnerability, isn't there?
There isn't so much with although Liverpool didn't play great at the weekend, there isn't so much with the top 2 who've got their own battle. But United, Watford had 20 shots at goal against them.
Yep.
Tottenham have no wins in the last 5, something like that. Man United, who else is in there? Sorry,
Chelsea.
Sorry, how could I forget? Chelsea. They're probably the least convincing of all the teams in there. So, in terms of where Arsenal's sitting, if you'd have said at the start of the season, look, we're 2 points clear of the rest, we've got this amount of games left, none of the real big boys, and we get in the top 4 with this squad, I think he'd have taken it.
No one, I think, with the exception of Xhaka at the start of the season, had Arsenal finishing in the top 4. What sort of achievement would this be for Unai Emery?
I think it's a tremendous step forward, and it's a building block for him, and it's also something that allows him to have a credibility within the locker room, that he steps in and says, okay, look, this is what we've been able to do, doing the things according to my way of thinking, my way of thought, what we're doing in training. It's all coming together. And if we keep going in this direction, we're going to keep building, we're going to continue to be better. And perhaps if we add a couple of pieces here and there, maybe we're challenging for something bigger. That's what you would be selling to the players, is what you would be selling to the ownership group, is what you would be selling to everybody, the fans, and say, you know what, we are going in the correct direction. It's not the same thing that somebody at Chelsea would be able to sell.
Right.
Clearly, that's not the case. They seem to be going in their own direction. And so I think this has been a very positive season for Arsenal, but they have a chance to make it a great season for Arsenal, because the Europa League is still out there for them. Top 4 is out there for them. It's important for Arsenal now to then take the steps forward that validate everything that they've done up until this point.
It's a credibility within the board and the money men, isn't it? I mean, if you finish 5th or 6th, we could say, well, we kind of thought that at the start of the season. But if you're the board and then you start saying, well, I don't know, how much we're going to give this guy. He had us in a good position, and then, that's the way they'll look at it.
Sure.
They don't always look at a squad and say, well, the manager's a bit unlucky there. They say, most boards will go, well, he had us in a good position and he let us down. If he gets them into 3rd or 4th Champions League football, all of a sudden he can go to them and say, as Ali said, look, we're on the front foot here. Let's not take a backward step.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do. We need to spend this, and this is the areas we need to improve. And he's got a much better chance of doing it with Champions League football and selling to his owners that he is the man for the job. Because he's not got a long contract at Arsenal. I believe there's a get-out in there for the club after a couple of years. I think he signed a 3-year deal, I believe. And I heard somebody say there is a clause after 2 years that if it's not going well, they can sort of get rid of him. So it would be a big help, and I might be wrong in that, I don't know.
No, that's it, you said it now.
I don't know, I've said it. I've said it because I heard somebody...
Through his contract.
I heard somebody talking about his contract, and he's got a clause in it which tells you that they're not entirely sure at the time of the appointment about the long-termism of this. What I'm saying is, the way it's gone at the moment, then he's on the front foot, and he's impressing, there's no doubt about it.
Who's finishing top 4?
Silence. Now that I've seen that graphic and I didn't realise the games, I'm not sure. I thought it would have been Man United and Tottenham.
Right.
A couple of weeks ago, but I'm just seeing what Arsenal's run-in's like. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced now that they're out of it.
Right. Do you want to get off the fence?
Sure. Of course, Manchester City, Liverpool.
Yes.
And then after that, it's going to be, well, I jumped on the Solskjaer bandwagon very heavily, and so therefore, Manchester United is getting in.
Yeah.
Arsenal getting in.
Now,
Spurs out.
None of you, of course, giving Chelsea much love at the moment. Of course, laboured to that win against Cardiff. And it's interesting, like, January we spent a lot of time talking about Gonzalo Higuain. They have to get him in. They have to pull the trigger. They have to pay the money if he's going to guarantee top 4. But he really hasn't done much, has he? 3 goals in 11 matches. Sarri says that he's struggling to adapt to English football. How much is this down to Higuain, and how much is this down to the way Chelsea are playing in general?
Well, he should have known this if he's going to adapt to English football, because he knows the player very well from Italy, and he had a good 6 months plus to suss out how the English game is played. And by the way, it isn't chalk and cheese. It's not that much different. It might be a little quicker, but it's very technical in Italy as well. It's very technical in Spain, probably more technical than in the Premier League. And it's maybe slightly more physical in the Premier League, but I think that's a debate.
Right.
So I don't quite get this. He's not fitting into the... He's just not playing well. And he's in a team that's not playing well. And, if Chelsea do get in the top 4 or win the Europa League and get Champions League football that way, it's going to paper over the cracks of the deficiencies of this manager for a long term, I think.
Are you surprised with his lack of productivity?
I would be more surprised if he was missing chances left and right.
Yeah.
But it's not like Chelsea's creating all sorts of opportunities.
You think against in Cardiff, does he touch the ball? It's weird, isn't it?
It's not like there are opportunities for him to be missed. It's not. We're not talking about Higuain with Argentina that he's missing clear chances. No, he he's not even getting opportunities to score, and he's not participating in the play. So then you find Higuain dropping off in a sort of deeper position to try to get a touch on the ball. It doesn't help that when you don't have a guy like, say, Callum Hudson-Odoi that could help out in terms of creating opportunities. Maybe you start in Hazard in games in which you need to win, which I don't quite understand some of the choices that Mauricio Sarri has made. And so we go back to the initial point. This team under Mauricio Sarri is neither coming nor going.
Here's the thing that Chelsea fans will be saying. Wait a minute, just 2 minutes ago you're praising Unai Emery and Arsenal doing what they've done this season, yet they're only 3 points ahead of Chelsea, yet we're so critical of Chelsea and yet so complimentary of what Unai Emery's done at Arsenal.
Because
Why?
at the start of the season, he had a better squad of players. He had a better squad of players. And look, he brought Jorginho in for big money. And look, you know, we don't think he's the greatest, but he was in Italy, or they thought he was great in Italy, and so did Sarri. He's now got Higuain, who's been banging goals in Serie A for fun. He's got Eden Hazard in there. He's got N'Golo Kante, who's a World Cup winner. He's got Willian, who's a Brazilian international. Pedro is a Spanish international. The list goes on. I know there's deficiencies within the Chelsea team, but that squad of players had been together a long time. Whereas at Arsenal, you just felt it was becoming so stale at the end under Arsene Wenger that it was going to be a big lift. And I think that's why.
Chelsea then have the chance, though, to move up to third level on points with Arsenal as they're in action midweek. They take on Brighton. Also, it's City against Cardiff. Spurs open their new stadium against Crystal Palace. Meanwhile, tomorrow, Watford take on Fulham. Plus, it's Wolves against Manchester United. As promised then, Peter Walton joins us to discuss some of the controversial calls that we saw at the weekend. Peter really made the effort, dressed for the occasion. Thanks, Pete, as always. Let's start, shall we, with the Spurs goal in the Liverpool game, which obviously, looking back, the ball was moving when Harry Kane took the free kick. The big question was, and we were watching this, when VAR is implemented next season, would it have chalked this goal off?
No, it wouldn't have done. And the reason it wouldn't have done is because under the VAR protocol, restarts of games are not checked. And that was a restart from a free kick. If you gave another example, you could say that every throw-in is a restart, so every throw-in needs to be checked to make sure it's taken from the right spot or so. And that's just not impractical. So when VAR is introduced next year, that goal will still stand.
Isn't the point of VAR to get the call right?
Well, yes, it is, and that's exactly right. However, you know, where do you draw the line? And when VAR has been introduced and the protocol was arranged, it was said that, you know, restarts would not be checked, and because there are too many restarts in the game, you know, every throw-in would need to be checked, every goal kick would need to be checked, every free kick has it been taken exactly from the spot where the offence occurred. So it's impractical to check every restart, and therefore that was a restart, wouldn't be checked.
But it's only for a goal. It's not like you're checking every
But
restart.
I get what he's... When I was thinking the same thing, oh, that's crazy. When our producer was sending his 45th email to him yesterday, schoolboy error, not switching your phone off, by the way, Pete. I was thinking the same thing. That's crazy. But then Pete brings up a good point. What do you do after that? Take it back to a throw-in back in, you know, on your own half? Was that taken 4 yards too further forward than it should have been? It's where you draw the line. I don't know.
Well, we draw the line in where the sequence started, and the sequence of the goal started at the free kick. And if the free kick was not taken in a manner in which it should have been taken, had the referee spotted it, he would have said, "Hey, look, that this ball was moving." So that, I mean, I understand the point and the practicality that Peter's talking about, but I also say, this is impacting the outcome of the game. And if it's very obvious, it's one that you should say, look, man, common sense should be something that we should take a look at here and say, this goal should not count.
Yeah, and that, if I can come back on that's a very good point to make, Alan, because under IFAB and their technical committee, they will be looking at that in terms of the involvement of VAR. At the moment, though, they've said no, but they've not said no, never. So we'll wait and see.
Of course, there's no VAR in the Premier League at the moment. It'll be introduced next season, but they haven't really missed it this year. It's all worked out really well, especially...
By the way, there's VAR. We done it yesterday. There's VAR in the Chinese second division.
Yes, that's correct.
And yet we're still seeing the horror shows from the weekend.
I know, and then it really was a horror show in the Cardiff game. So many incidents that the referee and his officials got wrong. Obviously, we don't really need to talk about the offside. There are a couple of penalty calls in the first half that everyone agrees should have been given. We'll go for the third penalty call, Peter, which I think you'll agree should have been a penalty. But how does the referee not get this? It's right in front of him.
Well, yes, it's right in front of him, but unfortunately, Craig Pawson has adopted a really side-on view there of the actual incident and doesn't get a clear view of it at all. And we can clearly see it from the camera from behind the goal, and that's something that the VAR would see also come this time next year. Unfortunately, yes, I have to agree, it was a penalty kick. Rudiger's clearly pulled the attacker over. Unfortunately, again, Craig Pawson hasn't seen it because of his positioning, and next year that will be corrected.
Right, 1 second, Pete. Bearing in mind the guy that was pulled to the ground, Morrison, was the guy that was heading the ball. Does a referee not track the flight of the ball? Because if he was doing that, he would have clearly seen the incident.
Yeah. And again, the answer to that is yes. However, when it comes to that situation, there's so much happening in that area that the referee's eyes may well be detracted from the flight of the ball if there's something happening off the ball or he's detecting two other players. So it's really hard to detect. It looks easy, but it's really hard in practical terms when you've got so many things happening in front of you at the same time.
Talk us through the yellow card incident, because Rudiger maybe could have got sent off. Kepa, of course, coming out. A yellow card was given. Was that the right decision?
Yeah, I've watched this a number of times, and the yellow card is, in my opinion, the correct decision. Elements of denial of a goal-scoring opportunity involve possession or the potential of gaining possession of the ball. And as the ball's flighted across there, would the Cardiff forward got onto that ball in time, or would Kepa have been there just before him? I think the referee got this decision correct, because I don't think the Cardiff forward would have had the ball under possession by the time Kepa had got there.
We happy with the yellow card, boys, in that incident?
Okay, I'll take it.
Oh.
I mean, I'll take it, but
don't know.
It just look, when we talk about denying a goal-scoring opportunity and we talk about not playing the ball, this is the definition of it. I mean, he makes no attempt whatsoever at playing the ball. The ball is nowhere near, and he's essentially tackling the player down from behind. So from that point of view, I said, look, this looked a lot like a red card. Now I can see the point of Kepa coming out, and therefore you say, well, it's a yellow. Let's just say it's an orange one. Yellow?
Yeah, because it's not clear and obvious that he was going to get to the ball first. So I think I'm OK with that one.
A lot more of Peter throughout the show and on extra time, like a bad smell. Just a reminder, you can always tweet us in at ESPN FC for your questions. You can see it in its entirety over on our YouTube channel. Right then, Peter Walton, let's talk Italian football, shall we? Milan, of course, losing at the weekend. They felt, though, they should have had a penalty. We reached out to you when this incident happened. You said, no, the ref got it right. It wasn't a pen.
No, I don't think it was a penalty kick. When you look at it, it's two players tussling for the ball, and the defender gets the ball just prior to the attacker, the Milan player, trying to strike on goal. So, for me, the defender there has made a perfectly good challenge. Yes, there is physical contact, but that's part of the game. And really, I don't know why this went to VAR, because I don't think it was a clear and obvious error from the referee, and certainly I don't think it was a penalty kick.
Do you agree, boys? No penalty?
I think no, I thought it was a penalty, and I'll tell you why, because he does take a bit of the ball, but I think he catches the player first. So he comes across the player with the left leg and then scoops it away. So I think there's contact first with the player and then with the ball.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. I agree with Peter Walton.
What?
Yes, and usually...
What Craig just said? What about...
Well, I really see two guys that it's a 50-50 ball. There's a challenge to be made. He comes around, gets a touch on the ball, and once he gets that touch on the ball, I think the argument is over. So I agree with Peter Walton, and let me tell you, my standard is very low when it comes to getting a foul inside the box.
So it's the right back, it comes in and scoops it away with the left leg, yeah?
Yes, yeah. So just take a look here.
So he comes across the player first there and then scoops the ball. I would say, anyway. That way and then that way.
I mean, look, I'm not going to fight hard on this. I'll take the penalty. I'm just saying. I'm going to agree with Peter.
Yeah?
Yeah. And count that, Peter, because it's not happening to us.
I tell you what, I don't even think Pete's seen it.
What do you
I think he was just I think he was just fielding those emails back. Yeah. No, but yeah. Yeah, nearly the 12th email.
I have seen it.
I've seen it.
I have seen it.
Meanwhile, Peter, a strange decision I thought in England today as the FA announcing that VAR will not be used in the Championship playoff final. Of course, this is the big game when it comes to financial consequences to teams because promotion to the Premier League is so lucrative these days. This seems like just a bonkers decision. Why on earth would you not use VAR at Wembley if you can?
Well, yes, it does, on the face it look bonkers. But however, as you've just said, it's the biggest game in the world. It's the biggest payday in the world. And perhaps the English FA have said our referees, the referees in England, are not ready to have it as working.
Oh, my goodness. What are you talking about? That makes no sense.
He uses this every time.
How can the referees not be ready to look at a screen to see if a player's offside or not?
Look, this is a massive game, and the authorities, I think, are quite right in not introducing something that hasn't been used throughout the entire season on the one game. So, seriously, I think it's the right decision, and it's a decision that perhaps, hopefully, they won't need. This time next year, it'll be a different matter.
If somebody doesn't get promoted and loses 100 million plus because some boffins in suits went, our guys aren't quite up to speed with this. It's so difficult to look at a monitor on a replay and make a decision. I mean, come on, you've peddled this argument before, Pete. It's nonsense.
And you've seen many examples already this season where you've disagreed with the VAR or you've asked why hasn't that gone to VAR?
Doesn't matter.
And that's where we are in the process. And so why introduce yet another issue in a massive game as it is, where things could go wrong? So leave it alone.
Here's what you do: you get a couple of the most experienced referees that England have. And whoever's, I don't know, is it, I'm sure there's a separate... Will a Premier League official take charge of that game, Peter, or will it be an EFL official?
No, it'll be a Premier League official.
So why don't you get one of the best 3 or 4 of the Premier League referees and you put a couple of them in a room with VAR and then you have an experienced one and 2 very good assistants? What could possibly... how can that possibly not be better than just the human eye making a split decision that could cost a club?
I can't believe this is even a discussion. The officials have been so terrible this year in England, yet we're saying...
Just don't make it Craig Paulson that goes in the thing, though.
But we're saying no because they need training. They need to be able to know how to use the VAR system. That doesn't make any sense. You just look at a replay. Look, is he offside? Is he onside?
A replay!
Oh, Peter, no.
Well, I mean, look, you've asked my opinion, and I've sided with the authorities, as I normally do. So
I tell you what, England's going to be brilliant next year with VAR because they are hopeless.
You know what the scary part is that in part of Peter's argument he says, hopefully we won't need it. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. What if we do need it? Then what happens then? Oh, boy.
Yeah. As I said before, never say never.
That's Neil Warnock,
Yeah.
Do you get paid by the FA? Are you on their books?
No, I'm not on there. Not on books at all. No. In fact, I don't get paid by ESPN half the time. So there you are.
I tell you what, with takes like, well, hopefully we won't even need the VAR.
I tell you what, you should be giving us money coming on dressed like that.
Okay.
Honestly, don't go out. The kids will throw you on top of the bonfire.
Oh my goodness gracious! I can't believe you said that, Peter. Anyway,
I can. He's peddled that before. Well, it's really difficult for us referees to have a look at things on 3 or 4 occasions and then make a decision.
What's happening with Peter Walton's paycheck? Why is nobody paying him? Pay the man, for goodness sake.
God's sake, pay the man.
Well, this is it. All right, then.
Wait, there's nowhere to go after that.
I think we're promoting a podcast, I think. If you ever miss a show, you can download our daily podcast.
Peter Walton's podcast, Why We're Not Having VAR, It's Difficult to Look at Replays. 20 minutes.
That last-minute win for Liverpool against Spurs means they return to the top of the table, 2 clear of Manchester City. Liverpool with 6 matches remaining, City with 7. City in action on Wednesday. They're at home against Cardiff. You look at their respective run-ins. For City, the big game certainly at home against Spurs, and then Old Trafford against United. For Liverpool, an easier run-in home against Chelsea, one of these standout ties. What narrative do you take after their win against Spurs yesterday? And they rode their luck and got the win, and it's going to be almost written in the stars for them going forward, or they showed vulnerability and some chinks in their armour?
They showed vulnerability. And what I saw in the second half against Spurs was scary, because it was really the first time this season that I thought, man, this team, in a moment in which they were dominating the game, they were so good in the first half, they had everything going for them, and then Spurs kind of picked up the pace of the game, and Liverpool did not react. And I thought, that anxiety and those nerves that people have been talking about, this is the first time that I've really seen it in an important match from Liverpool. Now, when people talk about faith, and it's written in the stars, and things are happening, and Lloris is dropping the ball, and having a catastrophic moment, and what have you, people seem to forget that Liverpool was up 7 points in this league, with a potential to make it.
They're up at 10 points.
Well, and a potential to make it even bigger, and they failed to do that. And so that in itself tells you that there was a lead there that's already been lost. So was that not written in the stars? Was that not fate? Look, they don't control it now. It's in the hands of Manchester City. Manchester City wins out, the title is Manchester City's. And so for Liverpool, they have to be perfect to continue to put pressure on Manchester City and hope that they trip somewhere, either whether it's against Spurs or Manchester United or somewhere else. I don't see it happening. I still like Manchester City.
Liverpool's running's good, though. When you look at it, definitely they wouldn't want to swap with City.
No, I don't think so. But they would certainly want to swap where they are in terms of having it in their own hands.
Right.
One of the things I would say is that they started, even though Alexander-Arnold is now back, they started to make some bad decisions at the back. If you watch the goalkeeper, whose name escapes me, Alisson, starting to come out and get himself in bad positions. He did it at Fulham, cost him a goal. He did it again yesterday, and he got away with it.
Him and Milner kind of tackled each other, didn't they?
They're just starting to make some bad decisions at key times. The other side of the coin is De Bruyne's back fit again, Fernandinho's back fit again for Man City. And barring any more injuries, they have definitely got the better squad.
But Kun Aguero, of course, taken off as a precautionary measure in the game at the weekend. They've got to keep him fit.
No, of course they do, because Gabriel Jesus is not Kun Aguero. He does a job, but doesn't quite do the job that Sergio Aguero does. And so, yes, he has to be available and scoring goals as well.
City, of course, in action on Wednesday. United in action tomorrow. By the way, you can always check out Best of the Week, available on the website. Public going on between Real Madrid and Paul Pogba recently. Mark Ogden, interesting stuff over on the website, saying that United could actually be the big winners if Pogba does go to Real Madrid in the summer, citing the fact that he has gone missing in some big games this season and they could use the money elsewhere.
Well, I suppose that was earlier in the season, though, was it not?
Well, he talked about the PSG first leg at Old Trafford, felt that he didn't really do much in that game. In the FA Cup match against Wolves, once again, he goes missing, citing those as factors. So maybe this isn't the end of the world for United.
Well, in fairness, the PSG game at home, they got absolutely battered. And when he's not got, I would call them like the water carriers, which would be Matic and Herrera, serving him the ball, then it's difficult because PSG just dominated the game. So I'm not quite on. Maybe the Wolves game, yes, but I don't. You know, it's a valid argument if you want to go down a different route. I just don't know what Man United want to do.
I think it's a valid argument, depending upon what Manchester United do with the funds that they would get from Paul Pogba going elsewhere. And how do you address the issues that you still have? I don't think a club like Manchester United is in the business of letting world-class talent just walk away from the club. And so I think they're more in the business of acquiring world-class talent, or should be, because this is a club that most people consider to be one of the biggest clubs in the world. And so therefore, you don't just let a world-class talent just say, hey, see you guys later, this is not the club for me. But if you're going to allow that to happen, then you have to reinvest that money and address some of the issues that you have in your team so that you're building a group not only for the immediate, but then for the future as well.
Depends what Solskjaer says now that he's got his contract, doesn't it, I suppose. But Ali's right. Manchester United, I think they need to make a statement here. They've already lost Pogba once when Sir Alex was there and he went to Juventus for whatever reasons it was. And now they paid big money to get him back. I think if Real Madrid come in with a whopping offer, Man United have got the financial clout. They're not desperate to say no, and it makes a statement about the way they're going. So I don't see United. I would be surprised. I mean, some have talked about a swap deal with Gareth Bale. different players, but Bale coming one way. But Bale's 30 and he's had injury problems. I don't see it happening. I don't see United just offloading their key talisman.
And he's still got something to prove, hasn't he, at United? Considering that they broke the club record, was it 100 million they spent on him?
He can take the Mourinho excuse out of the way now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Whatever they do in the summer in the transfer window, you can't throw I'm just not happy here, it's Jose Mourinho. That's gone now. It's over to Paul Pogba.
So he's citing the article the likes of Robson, Roy Keane, and about how they were real leaders on the pitch, how they were very much the soul of Manchester United when they were successful. And it's just whether or not Paul Pogba can emulate that.
Well, different type of player, though. Those guys were what they were, and they were excellent talents and incredible players for Manchester United. Paul Pogba, I would suggest that naturally is a more talented player than those two were. It's a different personality altogether, and it's a different world that we live in now.
He needs those players. He needs one of those beside him.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then he can work off them.
Gents, thank you very much. More from us tomorrow. Until then, goodbye.
Countdown. I'm down. Reloading. Reloading. Another enemy.
You are the Apex Champions.